Come make it. Talk that down. What up? I'm ready to cut up. Shalom, everybody. How y'all doing? Welcome back to the next episode of Reading with SHILO, man. How y'all doing? What up? I'm SHILO. I'm out here, baby. What's up? SHILO Harmony is here. Ready to bring on the destruction of worlds with my reading. Oh, I'm out here. Yeah, we about to finish off chapter 2 of The Medical Apartheid by Miss Harriet A. Washington. We kept going in chapter 2 earlier today, and we only have like 3 pages left. Like 3 or 4 pages left to finish off chapter 2. So I'm like, hey, before the sun go down, before the Sabbath start, let's go ahead and finish off chapter 2, man, and get it out the way. Oh, chapter 2, and pick off where we left off. Hope y'all ready. Hope y'all ready to go. I'm ready to go. But before we ready to go, though, we're going to do our little workout, man. We're going to work our body, work our mind, and work our body again. I did some knees earlier today. Oh, man, what should I do? I don't know what to do. All right, fuck it. Let's get some all right, we're gonna work something, man. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's switch. I need to take one. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Oh man. Oh, I don't like that. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 2, 3, 4, 25. I can't do one arm. Shit. 25 on one arm. Well, one arm big and one arm little. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Swap it. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 3, 4, 25. My left arm weaker. My right arm was throwing them things. My left arm was, it was, Anyway, all right. Now, workout out the way. Let's read now. The workout is out the way. Let's read. Work your body, work your mind. And we're going to come back and work our body again on the end. But we're going to finish off chapter 2, man. That's what we're going to do. We're going to finish off chapter 2 of The Medical Apartheid by Miss Harriet A. Washington. Oh, praise it. Medical Apartheid, a dark history of medical experimentation on Black Americans and from colonial times to the present. So let's finish off chapter 2. Shalom to everybody. Welcome to Reading with SHILO. I'm SHILO. What's up, baby? I'm out of breath from them damn 50. I'm out of breath. Yeah, I didn't like how that felt. I mean, it felt good, but man, I don't like the bent over rows. I don't like. Get your money, baby. Get your money, chap. Keep your bag full of money full. Let's finish chapter 2. Chapter 2, the profitable wonders. Antebellum ethics. Sims was widely criticized not only by today's ethicists, but also by some 19th century contemporaries on medical and moral grounds. An intriguing 2003 New York Times essay observed, living in the era that uncritically celebrated white male doctors, the historians contended, these writers had viewed Sims far too favorably. But the criticism is actually as old as Sims' surgeries. Some contemporaries were quite critical of his claims and not only Bozeman, but also African American physicians characterized Sims' surgery as abuses. Cardiac specialist Dr. Daniel Hale Williams, who successfully performed one of the first open heart operations, was an especially vocal critic. Now, Williams was not born until 1858, years after Sims' vaginal repair surgeries were completed, but he studied and roundly condemned Sims and the continuing practice of performing surgery on unwilling Black subjects. Yes, condemn that shit. Williams also took Sims to task for pronouncements he continued to make about the sexual health and, by implication, the morality of Black women. For example, Sims had reported that 60% of Negro women had uterine cancer, a disease that associated with early and frequent sexual contact or uterine fibroids. Now, Williams demanded proof or at least evidence, but Sims had produced no raw data, nor any investigative report, but to buttress this claim. Now, Williams wondered in print how Sims could have determined this, and when Black women were not permitted into white hospitals. Dr. W. Montague Cobb, another illustrious African-American surgeon, also vociferously opposed abusive experimentation with Blacks, but he defended Sims. To refer to Anarcha and the 5 other vesiculovaginal patients whom Sims treated with her as human guinea pigs would be grossly unfair, and as Sims continued to treat and provide for those girls at his own expense for 3 years in the little hospital in his ward, against enormous pressures from his family, the profession, and the public, one of the great humanitarians as well as scientific landmarks of American surgery. Yes, sir. Boom! That's all you wanted? You sure? Can I get a hug then, since you want a fist bump? Can I give me a hug? I want a hug, give me a hug, boy. I want a hug, give me a hug, give me a hug, give me a hug. Give me that hug. Come on.
You're a cigarette. You're a cigarette.
I was shaking. I was shaking, my boy. There we go. However, the women were held involuntarily for Sims' convenience. So requesting moral credit for lodging them is absurd. And what's more, the women's lodging was not free. They did work without pay, and Sims did profit from the surgeries, whereas only Anarcha seems definitely to have benefited, from the 4 years of pain. Poor Anarcha. Moreover, was the building to which Cobb referred really a hospital? A designation that implies that Sims' primary intent was to render medical care to his slaves. Now, Sims is widely admired as the founder of the nation's first women's hospital, but the appellation refers to the more proposing structure on Park Avenue in New York City. If the New York structure housed the first women's hospital, then the Montgomery, Alabama slave quarters must have been something else, perhaps a laboratory that confined unwilling subjects. Cobb's defense of Sims shows that social class and varying ethical perceptions, not only race, have fueled his lengthy controversy. Whatever his true cure rate, Sims' silver sutures did help to end a real medical tragedy. Sims' silver scissors did help to end a medical tragedy for many women, and some excuse the abuse of the enslaved women on this bias. This essentially utilitarian, I mean, mhm, utilitarian, utilitarian. That's right. This essentially utilitarian argument presents an ethical balance sheet. With the savage medical abuse of captive women on one hand and countless women saved from painful invalidism on the other. However, such an argument ignores the ethical concept of social justice, and these experiments violated this essential value because the suffering and the benefit have been distributed in an unfair way, leading to distributive injustice. In this case, the most powerful group, which is also the racially distinct group and the captive group, is the group upon which doctors inflicted harm for the greater good. Another privileged group enjoys the benefit but shares neither the pain nor the risks. Thus, the moral unacceptability is clear. But the dangers of such practices are more shady. One danger of violating distributive justice is that this tends to perpetuate social inequities. And this is exactly what has happened with vesicovaginal fistula. Today, as in the 19th century, the overwhelming majority of women who suffer from vesicovaginal fistula are poor blacks without access to quality health care, women in sub-Saharan Africa. They do so because they share the same risk factors as Luciana Narcha, malnutrition, and poor prenatal care. And they have little access to surgeons who can repair their fistulas. The beneficiaries of the surgery today are many, but the same sort of women whose misery made the surgery possible are excluded. Sims' popular legacy reflects the face he turned to white women of his class. An image coined into enduring medical fame and gratitude. Only enslaved blacks such as Luciana Narcha saw the hideous obverse side of this coin, and history has silenced them. Whatever his ethical sins, Sims' surgical exploitation of enslaved blacks was consonant with the medical practice of this time. For Black women, forced experimentation was a standard of care. A. Donaldson, Louisiana surgeon, named Dr. Francois Marie Prevost, used enslaved Black women to perfect cesarean sections, performing 4 such deliveries on them between 1822 and 1831. I didn't know that was perfected here in Louisiana. In 1830, he performed his first successful cesarean on a woman Prevost described as a fat-colored primipara, a woman giving birth for the first time, with a contracted pelvis. 29 of the subsequent 36 Southern surgical cases to duplicate and perfect the procedure were performed on Black women. Prevost's contemporary, Dr. Ephraim McDowell, was the first to perform the ovariotomy, the removal of the ovary, successfully. And he perfected this dangerous and excruciatingly radical surgery on his 4 slave women. McDowell performed his research in Kentucky, a state with very few African Americans. And so did Dr. P.C. Spencer of Petersburg, Virginia, who devised a novel surgical procedure for bladder stones after equally painful surgical experimentation on slaves. The discovery of Robert Jennings, who eventually invented typhoid vaccine, were also tested first on blacks. But what of their experimentation? That not described in professional journals and in halls of academia. African Americans have long circulated accounts of doctors who seized hapless blacks from the streets to experiment on them. And these accounts are usually derided as being paranoid. But consider this incident, originally described in the 19th century textbooks in the history of anesthesia. Man, they still have, it's still a lot of little black children missing. There's still a lot of black people missing, period. So a lot of these experimentations could still be going on today. I mean, I know they are in different type of ways, but in the same way that they're just pulling people off the streets and experimenting, as Dr. Sims did, or well, not Dr. Sims, but Dr. P.C. Spencer of Petersburg, Virginia did. The discovery of Dr. Robert Jennings. All these are pulling, a lot. It said they pull people off the street. A lot of these missing missing children and missing people, man, they could be in somebody's laboratory underneath what that place is in New York. Let me see where it was. A place in Central Park. I can't think of it, man. I can't think of it. The Waldorf Astoria. The Waldorf Astoria, where the first women's hospital supposedly was that Sims had opened up. Let's keep going. In Anderson, South Carolina, in 1839, a group seized a black boy and forced him to inhale ether from a handkerchief that was held over his mouth and nose. And soon the boy became motionless and unconscious and was feared dead. However, after an hour, he revived. No worse for his alarming experience. Man, I wouldn't want to go through that. This incident convinced Dr. Crawford W. Long that ether could safely be tested as a potential anesthetic, as he did using 3 black slaves, followed by the amputation of an etherized boy's toe in 1842 and a man's finger in 1845. Another illuminating aspect of such incidents is how they differ from the conventional representations of experimentation. Robert Hinckley's The First Operation Under Ether, an oil painting that denotes one wall of Harvard's Francis A. Countway Library of Medicine, shows ether being administered to a supine white male attended by impeccably clad physicians in a theater holding tiers of enraptured doctors. These beautifully composed images evokes a sober atmosphere of reverent wonder underscored by the sober tones of formal stances of the surgeons. Its grandeur has informed many of viewers' conception of the experimental investigation of ether, but it is an idolized rendering, rife with inaccuracies. And although it purports to depict the first use of ether as an anesthetic, it does not. The stately image is a beautiful fiction with a beautifully factual negative. The body of a black slave seized by laughing medical thugs, forced to inhale ether and left for dead in the road. Some who ascribe African Americans' poor health to the wariness of the U.S. health system claim that African Americans have always opposed medical experimentation, independently of any medical abuses. But from an earlier time, Black Americans themselves have engaged in therapeutic medical experimentation. African herbalists investigated, tested, and perfected the use of plants they found in the New World for the new ailments that afflicted both blacks and whites. They adapted medicines and techniques that they brought with them, such as the stimulant kula nut, which was adopted so widely that it eventually supplied the main ingredient for Coca-Cola. I know that one. That's a good one to know. The cooler nut, huh? Not the cocaine, not that white girl. Shit, matter of fact, that's starting to make some sense right there. That is starting to make sense. If Sims was getting people hooked on the morphine, then and this says that eventually supplied the main ingredient for Coca-Cola, which was the coconut, the cola nut. Why wouldn't it? And they say that Coca-Cola was putting Coke in real Coke in they drinks. So it's no different, and pushing it to who? So the morphine was pushed to who? The Coca-Cola with the Coke in it was pushed to who? Man, I really can't drink nothing around here. In 1721, an enslaved African named Onesimus proposed a novel medical technique that saved the city of Boston from the dread smallpox epidemic and provided the first important medical advance in the New World. Onesimus, a pretty intelligent fellow, had been given to Cotton Mather, a Puritan preacher and amateur scientist, by a grateful congregation in 1706. Oh, the congregation gave him Onesimus? Some congregation they was. Because the case of smallpox conferred completely lifelong immunity, slave dealers routinely advertised the fact or the fiction that a slave had survived a bout of the disease. Therefore, Cotton Mather soon asked his acquisition whether he had had smallpox. He answered both yes and no, and they told me that he had undergone an operation which had given him something of the smallpox and would forever preserve him from it. I guess that's what it is, preserve him from it, adding that it was often used among the, my bad, it's a country name, Garamantes. It was often used among the Garamantes, and whoever had the courage to use it was forever free from the fear of the contagion. Now, Onesimus was speaking of inoculation against smallpox, a successful preventive measure that was widely practiced throughout Africa. Smallpox inoculation took various forms, but the common denominator was that the small amount of the pus in scab or other affected matter from someone with smallpox was deliberately introduced into the broken skin of a well person. This variolation, as Mather called it, evoked mild symptoms, followed by permanent, complete immunity, the holy grail of smallpox prevention from Western doctors and scientists. Onesimus showed Cotton Mather the technique used by those of his native country, and when a smallpox epidemic revisited Boston in the summer of 1721, Cotton Mather, man, why have I heard that name before? Cotton Mather. Cotton Mather and his clerical brethren called for a mass inoculation of the people in Boston. However, the city's physician, led by William Douglas, resented being told by a gaggle of ministers that Africans had devised the panacea they had long sought. Zabdiel Boylston was the only physician that embraced inoculation, but not before testing it on 2 black slaves, then 248 more. Oh yeah. As well as his own 6-year-old son. Boylston then proved that they had achieved immunity by exposing them to cases of smallpox. The physicians' resistance turned uglier and violent. The popular press played no small role, serving as the battleground, while doctors condemned virilation because it was the laughable, unchristian product of occult African practices. The fact that inoculation worked seemed not to play into physicians' assessment, and their bitter attacks were not confined to the intellectual sphere. A lighted grenade was thrown into Mathis's house, along with a note declaring, "Cotton Mather, you dog! Damn you! You dirty dog!" Boom! "I'll inoculate you with this, with a pox to you." This prompted him to complain. "I do not know why it is more unlawful to learn of Africans how to help against the poison of the smallpox than it is to learn of our Indians how to help against the poison of the rattlesnake." Good question. Good question. In the end, the obvious reduction of death rates from 14% to less than 2% convinced doctors that inoculation was the city's savior. Approximately 80,000 Bostonians became ill and 844 died. But while 1 in every 9 untreated patients succumbed, only 1 in every 48 inoculated people were stricken. That's good numbers. I think that's pretty good numbers. Mather made a scientific report to the Royal Society in 1722, and by 1750, inoculation was standard in America and Europe, as it long had been in Africa. Historians hailed it as the earliest important experiment of America in preventative medicine. But Onesimus came to share the fate of nearly every slave who contributed to medical research: facelessness. Can we judge 18th century doctors for experimenting on blacks? Yes. Oh, yes, we can. A common apology for experimental abuse insists that we should not apply present-day medical ethics to the medical behaviors of yesterday. I think all blacks should have free medical for all the experimentation you did. And I don't trust you. You can't work on me. I need somebody that look like me. And then I don't trust them all the way either. They might be working with you. Like Bozeman. A common apology for experimental abuse insists that we should not apply present-day medical ethics to the medical behaviors of yesterday, which were governed by less enlightened medical standards for everyone, not just African Americans. Man, I think it still applies. I think we can judge them because they still practice the same shit today. I believe they still practice it. They just don't tell you. And when your people all of a sudden just drop out when it was good, when everything was good, and all of a sudden they just gone. And then the doctor be like, well, I don't know what happened. One day you're here, baby. And then you're gone. Oh, don't be like that. Don't be like that. That's how I feel when I go to the doctor, man. Or when I go to a hospital for something major, if it's something major. Like even a VA hospital, even something major. I mean, in my mind, one day you're here, baby. And then you're gone. Man, come on, tell him, Pimp C. The harm done to African Americans in such scenarios goes far beyond the injuries to the subjects themselves. My bad, I missed the whole thing. There you go. Before, however, ethical strictures did govern the behavior of the 19th century physicians. Before the mid-20th century, these binding ethical standards were not enforced by federal laws, but consisted of medical oaths, professional codes, and rules governing clinical conduct with medical schools, hospitals, and other institutions. These rules were carefully adhered to in cases of white patients, but were routinely broken for African Americans. I believe that one. The harm done to African Americans in such scenarios goes far beyond the injuries to the subjects themselves. And as African Americans came to learn of the experiments that Sims and his contemporaries conducted, these experiments fed an aversion to the health system, which is very warranted. Very warranted. They also harmed the community of African Americans by strengthening a perception of them as appropriate human fodder for research. Another recurrent ethical issue was raised by researchers' contention that Blacks were responsible for their own illnesses. Experimental remedies sought to correct diseases caused by Blacks' inherent physical flaws. So if an experimental procedure was painful or dangerous, the logic went, Blacks had only themselves to blame, not the surgeon. Some, such as Dr. Metterer of Virginia, and I'm probably pronouncing that name wrong, Mettauer, Metterer, that's how I'm going to pronounce it, of Virginia, claimed that if Blacks had cooperated more fully, the procedures could have been perfected. Ooh, I wish your face would cooperate with my fist right now, and an elbow and a knee. I wish your body would let me cooperate with my body. My elbows all over your body, babe. Researchers who exploited enslaved Blacks were guilty of more than ethical blindness. These early medical investigators also practiced bad science on the very basic level. They were simply illogical. For example, many researchers argued that Blacks were so different from whites, less intelligent, much less sensitive to pain, and possessing numerous physical anomalies as well as markedly different patterns of disease immunity, as to constitute a separate species. Given this supposedly vast biological chasm between Blacks and whites, how could scientists logically infer results of medical experiments from Blacks to whites? This particular logical flaw recurred regularly in early research with African Americans. But, logical or not, scientists' fascination with the Black body as the medical entity was about to enter new arenas, from the clinical to the circus. Man. And that was chapter 2. That was the end. We have finished off chapter 2. Profitable Wonders of the Medical Apartheid by Harriet A. Washington. Man, I want to bust in his head. I want to hit a jive turkey upside his mouth. Jive turkeys for the shenanigans that they pulled on my people. Man. You know, reading this kind of stirs up a little something in me. Like, bust a head. Oh, African, son. I got something for you, African. I got something for you. Get that ball with that. Hit that ball with that shaka. That shaka Zulu on him. Oh man, somebody need to make a movie about brothers going back in time and waging war on people. Like, I'd watch it. Let me be one of the main characters. I want them to see somebody like me coming through there. All these people on the live, when I be on the lives, they be talking about my hair and how I look like tentacles and all type of stuff. Oh yeah, baby. You found you the right one here. Army strong. Hurry up. Let me get you. Oh, let me get you. Walk them down. I'm be saying stuff they don't know what it is. Oh, you playing with my people top? Oh, it's up in the stock. It's up there and it's stuck there. Oh, these niggas is crazy. I seen a strange one the other day. I seen a strange fella. A strange niglet. Big long beard. Look like Moses. Or Aaron. Aaron had the long beard. Looking like Aaron out there. He came to tell us to let his people go. Oh, suffer the consequences, bitch. Oh, it'll be a live movie, man. Full of action. Full of action. They really think brothers was tripping. You know, have some of them calisthenics brothers that could be doing all that crazy shit. Them have some of them brothers that do all that parkour. Yeah, jumping all across stuff. They cutting backflips off the side of the bar. Oh. Take that, white boy. Jude. Yeah, but hey, chapter 2. The book is turning out. We're only in chapter 2. We are only in chapter 2. Chapter 3 is Circus Africanus. The popular display of black bodies. Ooh, I wonder if that's going to go into that lady with that big old booty. I can't think of her name, man. I can't think of her name. They used to have her on display in like a zoo, you know, because of the size of her butt. You know, hey, I want them big rump shakers, huh? Hey, they'd have your big rump shaking ass right in the zoo, paraded for everybody. Now y'all want to, now my people want to have their behinds out for nothing. Put that big dookie shoot up. Put some clothes on, cover it up, because they would be mad. They would be mad if because of that thing you toting around, that wagon you got, they're gonna be, keep that wagon. Them doctors would have been dragging. Them doctors would have been dragging that wagon right to the experimentation table with no anesthesia. Fistula. I'm trying to see what that fistula. Hey, you don't want that, man. You don't want that. You know, we have to do better. We got to do better. But very informative book so far. Very informative book. I think it has great information. You know, I thought I was kind of, in my mind, as I was reading the books, I thought I was getting away from a lot of the slave narratives and stuff like that, you know, but we still in it. We still in it. I can see we still in it. It's just a different angle of approach, which is fine. It's just something to remember in the books. Lesson learned, or just something else. Once again, what can we learn and grow from in the books? And it just so happens that a lot of slavery stuff is going to be what we're going to be learning and growing from. And I'm definitely learning, and definitely some growth involved, you know, whether it be from the words and the way they're used and the usage of them, the pronunciations of them, or the reading ability and skill, or just just the information that can be downloaded that may not have been known before, you know, concerning names like Dr. Sims and some of the other doctors, and, you know, things that I had the assumption of these things happening before. But hey, the book is giving more factual information to the assumptions that I had to go right along with the assumptions. So they are fueling and growing my distrust of the medical. Don't get me wrong. I think that I'm not gonna say I'm a herbs and roots man either, but, you know, at least that's more. At least I feel like that has adverse side effects too in some cases. But at least that's from the earth. At least they come out the ground. I'd rather get hooked on some roots than get hooked on that morphine like Sims had them hooked on. You know, yeah, I'd rather get hooked on that. But hey, we're gonna keep pushing. We're gonna keep pushing and move on. So I'll try to come back Sunday, most likely Sunday, because I'm not gonna read the medical apartheid tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll pick up in the Sabbath reading and pick back up in 2 Samuel. But today, all praises, man. We finished off chapter 2. Goal completed. 1 down, chapter 2 down. accomplished it. Let's get the workout going. 25 somethings. We did 25 somethings to start. We're going to do 25 somethings to end. And I don't really want to do the same 25 I did to start. So I'm going to do something different. Shit. Because I don't like them bent over rolls.